Hey everyone, it's Jamie from Independent Street NOLA, and we are here to talk about the new moon in Libra. That is tomorrow on October 6th. It is, I think, around 6:50 in the morning is when it hits its peak, so we're already feeling its energy for sure. And I'm Central Standard Time, so I did buy a thing to put my phone in, so you guys wouldn't get motion sickness, and yet here I am, just sitting on the couch holding it with my hand. So we're working there. So let's talk about this Libra New Moon. We're going to talk about Mercury Retrograde, and we're going to talk about some of the planets that were retrograde that are about to go forward, right? Because this is all happening at the same time. And to me, it's building on a great energy to push us forward. I know a lot of us have felt stuck or blocked, and that was by design, because we need to let go. You know, we keep saying, you know, we're letting go, we're releasing, we're surrendering, and it's to a fevered pitch right now, especially if you've been doing the work. You know, I pulled those cards, and actually they pulled themselves, quite honestly, and it was the Direction Guardian, pick your path, and then Snake, shed old skin, right? And when we think about, and when I say we, I mean the royal we. So when I think about shedding skin, right? Like if you think of a snake and how it sheds its skin, it just doesn't be like, it's time to shed, right? Like it's a preparation, and then it takes a while, right? And it has to go, and it's uncomfortable, but it knows what it's doing. It knows it's moving into a new skin, a new chapter, right? We're moving into fall, but we're also moving into a new chapter, a new way of being and a new way of seeing, and it's all happening organically, pretty much, especially if you have been doing the work. And if, you know, and I say that, I mean, we're all doing work, you know, I believe we're all doing work, and I can hear a lot of you saying like, oh, I know plenty of people who are not doing the work, and I understand. So we are shedding the skin, but we're shedding, you know, when we've been shedding layers, but coming through from the eclipse portal from, you know, April, you know, to now, it's really been layering with this crescendo, if you will, and it's going to keep going. It's just not like, oh, we're done. You know, we're going to constantly be shedding layers. Mercury, let's talk about Mercury retrograde for a second. Speaking of layers. So Mercury goes retrograde 3 to 4 times a year. And collective conscious would say, when Mercury goes retrograde, what happens? Instagram shuts down, Facebook shuts down, right? Like your computer's going to blow up. We can't remember how to talk, all those things. Well, yes, those things are a byproduct, or could be a byproduct of Mercury retrograde. You know, my friend Amber went to the Target, I don't know if I can say that, and it went to whatever yesterday, and the computers were down there, right? So, but I didn't go, so I don't know. You know, I wasn't on social media, so I didn't know these things were down. So some of these things affect us, some of these things don't, right? But the way that I look at Mercury retrograde, and because it happens 3 to 4 times a year, it's not here to F us. It is here to make us realize, how are we communicating? What are we communicating to ourselves? Do we need to send 30 emails a day, right? Like if you're forgetting to hit send on a text message, you know, maybe look at yourself and see, like, how am I organizing myself? How am I organizing my day? Is there a better way to communicate? Is there a better way to release some of this communication and let someone else do this communication, right? It's a time to recalibrate, but I also see this particular Mercury retrograde as a time to release, you know, go over, you know, we always talk about retrograde, release, recalibrate, reiterate maybe, but Mercury retrograde is a good time to also see, how are you talking to yourself? You know, I know a lot of you are coming to me, and even with myself, like there's just been some things on loop right? On loop. Like I keep going over the same scenario. Some of that's just from, you know, habit, right? Like just a habit. And so when I get like that and I realize like, oh, I keep going over this again and again, I need to break this habit, right? So I ask for help. I ask for help from the universe. I ask for help from the angels. I ask, you know, if you believe in science, I ask help from science. Like, another thing, you know, the way we communicate, right? And are we communicating to ourselves that we have to do everything alone? Do we have to, like, are we communicating to ourselves like there's, you know, no one here to help me? And if that's what's coming through too, it's time to, like, rethink that thought. Okay. The reality of it is, and I was just talking to one of my, you know, sweet girlfriends last night. She called me up and, you know, she just said, Jamie, I had no idea. All I had to do was ask. She was like, I know that seems so simple, but I just didn't know. Like, all I had to do was ask, and I totally get it. I totally get it. You know, and we were talking about, like, scenarios here on the earth plane, you know. She just had to ask, like, can I get an extra day at work? Yeah, they gave it to her, you know, which, if you need to hear that, friends, you heard that here. Because we forget, all we have to do is ask. But the same thing is with the universe. All you have to do is ask the universe. Universe, take these thoughts away from me. Universe, I'm ready to move on and into a new way of thinking. Universe, I really need someone else to help me answer all these emails, right? Universe, why am I talking to myself this way? I really feel like this Mercury retrograde that's happening right now is really focusing on how we talk to ourselves, because we need to bring ourselves back into balance, because it is Libra season, right? And Libra is an air sign, right? So air signs are thought. Air signs, you know, Aquarius and Gemini are air signs. So, you know, in Libra season before, they used to say Libra is always about the other. That's why when they say, sorry for the shakes, it's Libra season, so it's always about relationships, you know, and just fill in the blank. I don't have to, you know what a relationship is. But I really think this Libra season is a relationship with ourselves, how we're bringing ourselves back into balance. And it's been happening now for years, right? Mars went under that big recalibration. I mean, all the planets did. We don't have to go through the rundown, but it is all about ourself, bringing it back to ourself, because I believe we are in the age of Aquarius, and Aquarius is always about the individual first and then the collective. When, you know, the age of Pisces wasn't that. It just wasn't. So here we are in the age of Aquarius, and it's all about bringing it back into ourselves. How are we recalibrating ourselves? How can we come into balance? What are we telling ourselves? Are these stories still true? How are we communicating with ourselves? And when we realize how we're communicating with ourselves, then we realize how we're going to be communicating with the other, right? And we're going through this thing where we've realized, especially the divine feminine, who wasn't, the feminine part that wasn't divine, let's just say that, right? You can say toxic femininity, but it was all about the other. It was so about the other. It was like, how do I make this person, you know, interested in me? How do I make this person attracted to me? And it wasn't about what the divine feminine is, which is receiving. It was always out there, out there, out there. And so with this Mercury retrograde in Libra season, I believe it is about bringing it back into yourself and how you can get yourself into balance, right? And if these things are coming up, scenarios are coming up from, I don't know, 20 years ago, have a talk with yourself. Have a talk with yourself that was whatever that age when they were 20, you know, 20 years ago. And you can explain to yourself, you know, we're not that person anymore, and it's okay. You did a great job at that time, right? And also, please note, if you feel like you need to talk to a professional, talk to a professional. This is a great time to talk to a professional, right? Because we're all about communication right now. And, you know, I feel like you guys are smart enough, and we're getting back more into our intuition, that if you know, I kind of need a little help with this, you'll reach out to someone that can help you, right? whether it's a friend or to a specialist. That may be what you need help with. So, take note of that. Take note, can I do this? Or, I've asked the universe, it's still floating around, maybe I need to talk to a professional. Totally cool, right? This is a great time. It's always a great time to talk to a professional. So, that's my take on this Mercury retrograde. It is time, and if these things are coming up and you're like, it's uncomfortable, I don't want to think about these things anymore, you don't have to. They're done. Energetically, you're just going back and touching that energy. That energy is done. You can transmute that energy. You don't have to bring it with you. There's no law that says you got to take all this shit with you, which we'll talk about. I'm going to touch on the ancestors, right? They don't want us to bring that. I guess we'll just go into it. They don't want us to bring that energy with us. They really want us to what's the word I'm looking for? Retranslate this energy, right? They really want us to move forward. They don't want us to keep repeating the same, over and over and over again. And I was thinking about this the other day for two reasons. Just for because it's Mercury retrograde. What am I not going over? Those are jokes. So for two reasons, people are saying, like, I just don't know who I am anymore. People are saying, they're confused. And then I had a dream, which we may or may not go into. But, sometimes, especially I'll just say with the Mercury retrograde, maybe it's not important to know, which I think it's going to come more clear, honestly, when this Pluto goes direct. But right now, maybe it's more important to realize who you're not. Because when you realize who you're not, that opens up so much space for who you are becoming and who you're going to be. So the idea of if things are circling around and you're like, I am not this 19-year-old anymore. I am, fill in the blank, or I don't know why this memory that's coming up when I was 12 is circling. Maybe it's showing you who you're not, and maybe it's showing you that energy you don't have to carry with you any longer. It's been healed. It's been transmuted. It's safe. It can be released. So, knowing who you are not is going to pave the road for who you are or who you are becoming, because you are now becoming imbalanced with going forward, right? I mean, for most of us, we were told who we were. We were told you were this, you were that, right? And now we're all realizing, like, no, I'm none of those things, right? And going back to the ancestors, right? My name is Jamie Butler, Chikatilo, and I am named after my grandfather, James Butler. And he would always tell me, and he's still alive, by the way, and he would always tell me, Jamie, you're my namesake. And I'd always be like, yeah, I know, Papa, and he would just be so proud of that, and he would just give me a hug. But what I just kind of realized the other day was that he was so proud that I was his namesake in female form. Like, he couldn't wait to see how I presented his name, which is my name, right? So we share a name. It's not, it was him saying, like, I don't have claim to this. Like, I'm so proud, you get to experience and put it out there in the way you want to put it out there. You can do whatever you want with this name, right? Live it up, sis, and that just kind of came to me the other day, right? I mean, literally, like maybe 2 days ago. Not that I ever thought, like, I'm my grandfather's namesake. I have to live up to whatever, but maybe subconsciously I thought that. I'm not sure. But the idea that's coming through with the ancestors is that they're ready for us to move past whatever we thought or whatever energetically was tied to these things with the DNA. It's time to move past that. It's time to rebirth the earth however we see fit. This new energy is here. I mean, it's not going away. It's still in its infancy, sure, but it's here. This energy is here. We cannot hold on to the old ways or the old energy. And that's kind of what we're going through with this, right? With this Mercury retrograde, Pluto is retrograde, Jupiter's retrograde, Saturn's retrograde. I mean, honestly, just about everything's retrograde. I wrote it all down. So, and what it's realizing is like we're that snake. We're shedding all that skin. That's where we are. So let's talk about this new moon in Libra. My voice gets shaky because I forget to breathe because I'm so excited that I'm talking about this. So I apologize. So I'm going to take a breath before I pass out. So new moon in Libra. Libra, air sign, thinking about how we can come back into balance. Usually, you know, the old way of thinking when it came to Libra was that it's about the other. I don't believe that anymore. I believe it's about the self. I believe every sign should be about itself first, and then it can be about the other. So the sun and the moon as a new moon are side by side, right? So we're in this void. We're in this intense darkness, right? We're in this intense creation, right? So we're planting these seeds of balance, right? But we're also planting these seeds of going forward, you know, because on the same day Pluto moves direct, and I have my little book right here, and I put it on my Instagram. You know, Pluto's function, one of it's the realization of one's destiny. So if we are coming to this realization with Mercury retrograde, we're thinking about how none of that was my destiny. I was playing out social norms. You know, it can run the gamut, you guys know, because this is very personal. It's not like I want to gloss over all the stuff, but what everyone is going through right now is so personal. You know what you're going through, right? You know what you're experiencing. You know what you're shedding. I can't come up here and say, this is what's happening. These are themes, right? These are things that I feel like we're moving through as we awaken as a collective. So the function of Pluto, it says, the realization of one's destiny, the recognition of the absurdity of all narrow pursuits, the development of the capacity to discern truth, which is huge because we're moving out of Pisces, and that lower vibration of Pisces is disillusion, is, you know, the illusion, disillusionment, you know, addiction, fantasy land, right? And so we're in this point, and Pluto's moving direct the same day as this new moon in Libra. So we're all becoming imbalanced. We're all becoming aware of ourselves, right? We're all becoming aware of how we did, you know, communicate with ourselves and the other, right? And what's also very interesting with this new moon is that the moon and the sun are at 13 degrees of Libra. Mars is also at 13 degrees of Libra. I mean, it's right there. It's like, hey guys, hey, what's up? Let's talk, right? Mercury's like, okay, let's talk. And, you know, to me, you know, when Mars is in Libra, they'll say like, oh, it doesn't know how to make a choice, you know, it's in its detriment. But, you know, because it's the furthest away from its home sign. Mars is hanging out in Libra, and it's observing, and he's learning how to be a good guest. You know, he went through his transformation. He's with the sun and the moon. He's looking over his shoulder. Who's coming up right behind him is Venus. Venus was is going to be at 28 degrees of Scorpio. So Venus just went through the underworld. Okay, so the feminine side of you that, you know, we all have that, you know, is about receiving. So maybe we're going over all those relationships or all those times we put something out and we didn't get back, you know, it wasn't reciprocated, right? And so maybe we're swirling and all that stuff. And so, but, you know, we all realized, you know, we're all still here. We all learned some lessons. It's okay. It's a new time. We're not that person anymore. Sure, it might have been uncomfortable to relive those things energetically, but we don't have to keep living those things energetically because we're allowing this new energy to come in. So Mars looks down and he sees Venus coming up from Scorpio, and, you know, probably her hair's probably matted because she's been through it, but she survived it. She went through this transformation. She went through the underworld. Thank you, Scorpio. Maybe not all the stuff we just, went over in our minds was like the best, but we now know where we are because we now know what we're not. We're not that anymore. We've left that behind. We don't have to carry it with us. There's nothing that says, this backpack's got to be full of that shit. It can stay. And it can stay in the underworld, and it can get transmuted into beautiful energy, right? So, Mars is there with the sun and the moon coming, being like, hey, let's plant these seeds, right? Because Mars is action. Venus is coming up behind him, crawling out of the underworld, being like, yeah, I made it, and there was no doubt that she was not going to make it. Mars sees Venus as who she is, right? He knows she doesn't need him to come in and save her. She's freaking Venus, right? She's got this. We're all going to go through these trials and tribulations, but we don't have to keep repeating the same trials and tribulations. And honestly, we don't have to keep going through trials and tribulations, but that's another story for another time. So Mars is with the moon and the sun. They're in this conversation. They're talking about what are these new seeds we're going to plant. Pluto's like, turn and direct. Let's talk about your destiny. Let's talk about how you realized you were being, pigeonholed or somewhere narrow. Let's talk about now you can see the truth of yourself. You can see the truth of you, right? That's the most important thing. You can see the truth of you. You can see where you're unbalanced and you're masculine and feminine. Good news. Here comes Venus. We're going to be balanced, right? And that's so powerful right now. So when you start planting these seeds to move forward, you're planting them from a balanced perspective, right? You're planting them from, actually, I can do this because it's what I want to do as my own person. Now, one more thing. Because, of course, there's one more thing. Right across the sky is Chiron in Aries, okay? And it's not exactly opposing this new moon, but Chiron is over there in Aries, and Aries, is the initiator. Chiron is the quote-unquote wounded healer, who we used to see as, like it would make us uncomfortable. We would see it as our faults. We would see it as our, as our Achilles heel or whatever. So, but now we see Chiron as, these were things that maybe that made me feel uncomfortable or I was embarrassed about, but I've been through it. These are just parts of my personality. Like, I got this, right? So Chiron in Aries could be bringing up ideas of, actually, you know what I think? I think Chiron in Aries is telling you can start over again. Like, you can initiate things. Like, you're realizing in the past you would feel super stuck, like, oh, I can't do this. But now, because you're becoming imbalanced, Chiron in Aries is like, okay, all those things that you said like you couldn't do or you've done before, yeah, you actually can do them again. You can. You can actually redo these because it's going to be different, because it's a different time, it's a different energy, it's a different place. All these things, it might be the same place, but it's a different energy. And it's time to reinitiate. It's time to plant these seeds. Pluto's turned direct. You guys, Pluto's direct on a new moon. That's a lot of darkness. That's a lot of creation. That's a lot of void. That's a lot of fertile ground, Like, soil is fertile. Just think how rich and dark. It's just ready to get these seeds in there and get things planting. So get those seeds planting. And honestly, if you feel like you don't have the energy, if this is like kicking your ass and you're just like, seeds, I can barely pull myself out of bed this morning, then just allow. Just allow. If you are in this place where I don't know who I am, I don't know where I'm going, just tell the universe, I'm just willing to surrender and allow, right? The universe will hear you and the universe will take care of you. The universe will plant your seeds, okay? It's not like that shitty fantasy football draft where you forget to sign up and then you get all these players you don't know, whatever. The universe knows. The universe knows more than we do. always. Thank God. The universe looks out for us. The universe holds us. The universe takes care of us, right? When we start to surrender and allow. So if nothing else, with this full moon, just surrender and allow and be thankful that you don't have to figure everything out, that you don't have to know all the answers, that you don't have to have a roadmap, right? It will unfold. Jupiter's going to go, my dog's about to start barking. Jupiter's going to go direct, I think on October 10th, I think. And then Saturn will go direct. I wrote this all down, and guess what? I don't have my notebook. But remember, Mercury will go direct on October 18th. So, you know, we're pushing through this Mercury retrograde. We're pushing through this other side. So we're pushing through this idea that we do have to have all the answers. We can just allow and let things unfold and be grateful, right? We can do this. We're doing it. You're doing a great job. I'm proud of everyone. You know, I'm proud of everyone, because I always feel like when it gets to a fevered pitch of like, and even though like it gets there, even the people that are coming and talking to me, they know they're coming to that end, to that other side, right? So use this new moon just for a sigh of relief. Use this new moon to be thankful for who you are, and use this new moon to plant those seeds of not knowing, those seeds of abundance, those seeds of we got this. The sun and the moon are and Mars, because they're all together, are in a super wide trine with Saturn, right? Who's in Aquarius. Saturn wants us to be stable. Saturn wants us to be stable in the air, right? In the mind. But also Aquarius, who's also the third air sign, who's ruled by Uranus, who's also still in Aquarius, is the cosmic mind, which is our heart. So Saturn wants us to be stable in our hearts, right? Saturn wants us to be balanced in our hearts. Saturn wants us to be, you know, stable and balanced in our masculine and feminine, who are right there with this new moon. Okay. I'm going to leave it there. I hope you guys get some nuggets. I hope you guys have a great new moon. Like always, this is going to be posted on my YouTube. They don't allow comments yet, but you guys can always comment on my Instagram when it's not down. But also, you know, you guys can find me via email or whatever else. So hope you guys have a great new moon. I hope you guys have a great Pluto going direct day, and I'll talk to you soon.